A growing number of independent researchers suggest that humanity's obsession with nuclear warfare may not be a uniquely modern phenomenon, but rather the latest chapter in a recurring historical pattern. Ancient traditions, particularly those from India, contain stories that appear to describe advanced technologies and catastrophic wars long before modern times. Hindu texts, for instance, speak of Vimanas, flying chariots or palaces said to travel great distances through the air and, in some accounts, capable of delivering destructive weapons from high altitudes. Sir Monier Williams, 1819–1899, the second Bowdoin professor of Sanskrit at Oxford University, defined Vimana as a car or a chariot of the gods, any mythical self-moving aerial car, sometimes serving as a seat or throne, sometimes self-moving and carrying its occupant through the air. Other descriptions make the Vimana more like a house or palace, and one kind is said to be 7 stories high. He cited the Pushpaka Vimana of Ravana as an example. In several Indian languages today, including Hindi, Vimana is translated as aircraft. For instance, Vimanapura, a suburb of Bangalore, derives its name from this term. Ancient epics describe various Vimanas in detail. In the Mahabharata, the Asura Maya possessed a Vimana with 4 strong wheels, while the Ramayana recounts Ravana's Pushpaka Vimana, described as a radiant vehicle that could traverse the skies at will. One passage reads, "The Pushpaka Vimana that resembles the sun and belonged to my brother was brought by the powerful Ravana. That aerial and excellent Vimana went everywhere at will. That chariot, resembling a bright cloud in the sky, rose up into the higher atmosphere at Rama's command." These texts also describe vast wars involving weapons with devastating effects, often portrayed as leveling landscapes or consuming armies in blinding radiance. Some researchers interpret these accounts as possible references to nuclear-like weaponry. Intriguingly, Sanskrit terminology includes precise measurements for both immense distances, such as those comparable to light years, and minute scales like the size of an atom. Advocates of the ancient nuclear war hypothesis argue that such nomenclature may reflect direct knowledge of advanced science, including nuclear energy. The parallels between ancient texts and modern nuclear history have fascinated many. Robert Oppenheimer, 1904–1967, the American physicist known as the father of the atomic bomb for his role in the Manhattan Project, often reflected on these connections. After witnessing the first nuclear detonation at the Trinity test site on July 16, 1945, he famously recalled a line from the Bhagavad Gita, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." Some researchers claim that vast desert regions found on several continents may be remnants of prehistoric nuclear wars. They argue that descriptions in Aryan scriptures closely resemble the devastation of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, with vivid portrayals of firestorms, blinding flashes, and lingering after effects reminiscent of radiation poisoning. In a post-war interview, when a student asked Oppenheimer how he felt after detonating the first atomic bomb, he reportedly replied, "Not the first atomic bomb, the first atomic bomb in modern times." Oppenheimer strongly believed that ancient scriptures may indeed describe nuclear weapons used in prehistoric conflicts. Whether these accounts are metaphorical, mythological, or historical remains a subject of intense debate, but they continue to spark curiosity about the possibility that advanced technologies existed in antiquity and were lost to time. What convinced some researchers that the ancient texts describe nuclear battles are the strikingly accurate accounts of weapons and their devastating effects, as recorded in the epic Vedic literature. These descriptions closely parallel modern eyewitness testimonies of nuclear detonations. For instance, the Ramayana contains a passage describing a weapon of immense power. It was a weapon so powerful that it could destroy the earth in an instant. A great soaring sound arose amid smoke and flames, and with it came death itself. This epic, attributed to the poet Valmiki, was written during the 1st century AD, though it is based on oral traditions dating back 6 or 7 centuries earlier. Further references to cataclysmic weapons appear in the Mahabharata, particularly in the Drona Parva. This section recounts battles in which final weapons unleashed such destruction that entire armies, along with their warriors, elephants, steeds, and arms, were swept away as though they were dry leaves in the wind. The Mahabharata, attributed to the sage Vyasa, was composed between 540 and 300 BC and preserves the legends of the Bharatas, a Vedic Aryan people. Some scholars have suggested that J. Robert Oppenheimer, father of the atomic bomb, was alluding to the Brahmastra weapon when he famously cited Vedic texts. Consider these striking verses from the Mahabharata. Agartha, flying a swift and powerful Vimana, fast aircraft, hurled a single projectile charged with all the power of the universe. An incandescent column of smoke and flame, as bright as 1,000 suns, arose in all its splendor. A perpendicular explosion followed, its billowing clouds expanding into great circles. It was an unknown weapon, an iron thunderbolt, a messenger of death, which reduced entire peoples to ashes. Corpses became unrecognizable, hair and nails fell out, food was contaminated, birds turned white. To escape the fire, survivors plunged into rivers and streams to cleanse themselves. These vivid accounts bear uncanny similarities to modern descriptions of nuclear blasts, the blinding flash, the mushroom cloud, radiation sickness, and the contamination of food and water. Although Oppenheimer never formally converted to Hinduism, he often described himself as a Hindu in a philosophical sense. Deeply influenced by Vedic thought, he studied Sanskrit to read the Bhagavad Gita in its original form. His brother later recalled that Oppenheimer found the text very easy and quite marvelous, captivated by its wisdom and poetic charm. He once remarked, "Access to the Vedas is the greatest privilege this century may claim over all previous centuries." In 1996, further intrigue was sparked when Italian mineralogist Vincenzo de Michele discovered an unusual yellow-green gem embedded in one of Tutankhamun's necklaces, suggesting ancient civilizations may have possessed knowledge of rare and powerful materials. The scarab at the center of King Tutankhamun's pendant was once thought to be an ordinary gemstone. Scientific testing, however, revealed that it was actually glass, and far older than the earliest Egyptian civilization. Fission track dating showed that this glass was at least 28 million years old. Geologists eventually traced its origin to a rare natural material known as Libyan desert glass, LDG, found scattered across the sands of the Sahara Desert. Libyan desert glass is a natural silica glass, composed of about 98% silicon dioxide, that occurs in large deposits near the Libyan-Egyptian border. It is considered the largest known source of natural silica glass on Earth. The material is typically transparent or translucent, ranging in color from clear to white, yellow, or green, and glitters like gemstones under the desert sun. Pieces vary in size, from small shards to massive chunks weighing more than 20 pounds. The glass was valued in antiquity. The ancient Egyptians referred to it as the Rock of God, and archaeological evidence shows that prehistoric peoples used it for tools as far back as 10,000 years ago. Its presence in King Tutankhamun's pendant demonstrates its cultural and symbolic importance. The origin of LDG remains a scientific mystery. Austrian astrochemist Christian Kobel demonstrated that it formed under extremely high temperatures, consistent with those produced by a meteorite impact. Yet no evidence of a suitable impact crater has ever been found in the region, not even with satellite imaging. This puzzle has led to alternative theories. Some propose that the glass could have been created by terrestrial events involving unimaginable heat, ranging from massive natural explosions to more speculative ideas. Author Zecharia Sitchin, in The Wars of Gods and Men, suggested that ancient myths may encode memories of advanced technologies, including weapons capable of generating the intense heat required to melt sand into glass. He drew parallels to Greek mythology, where the battle between Zeus and the Titans is described with imagery of blinding light, thunder, and scorching fire, events that sound strikingly similar to modern descriptions of nuclear blasts. Such interpretations remain controversial, but they highlight the enduring enigma of Libyan desert glass. Whether formed by cosmic collision, natural catastrophe, or some unknown force, LDG remains one of the most intriguing materials in both geology and archaeology, linking the mysteries of Earth's deep past with the legends of ancient civilizations. During the first Egyptian pyramid war between Horus and Seth, ancient texts describe a mysterious weapon. He let loose against them a storm which they could neither see with their eyes, nor hear with their ears. It brought death to all of them in a single moment. Some researchers interpret this as evidence of advanced, possibly nuclear, technology. Similar parallels are drawn from the Bible, particularly the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. In Genesis 18:27, Abraham witnesses, "He looked toward Sodom and Gomorrah, and he saw smoke rising from the earth, like the smoke of a furnace." Beginning in 1999, Near Eastern archaeologists uncovered mounting evidence that the collapse of Sumer and Akkad coincided with a sudden climate shift. Harvey Weiss and Timothy C. Vieschel of Harvard University dated this disruption to around 4,000 years ago. Further confirmation came from H.M. Cullen and colleagues in a 2000 geology article, which linked the event to severe aridity, dust storms, and radiocarbon-dated layers. Peter B. de Monocle of Columbia University, writing in Science, reached similar conclusions, reinforcing the picture of widespread environmental upheaval. Robert Sepper, drawing from these studies, suggests that the destruction of cities and the blackened ruins found in Mesopotamia and the Sinai are best explained not by natural disasters but by advanced weaponry, possibly nuclear detonations around 2024 BC. The first atomic bomb test conducted by the United States in New Mexico in 1945 created a crater of radioactive glass, about 10 feet deep and more than 1,000 feet wide. Strikingly, the same type of glass has been discovered in Egypt, India, and other ancient sites. Many scientists attribute desert glass to meteorite impacts. These impacts typically produce impactites, materials altered by heat, pressure, and shock waves. Sand fuses into glass, and surrounding rocks are compressed into breccias. However, much of the desert glass lacks the embedded sediments normally found in impact events. Libyan desert glass, LDG, composed primarily of silica, CO2, is especially puzzling. Some propose it was formed by a meteor exploding in the atmosphere, similar to the 1908 Tunguska event in Siberia, which flattened 80 million trees across 2,000 square kilometers and released energy equivalent to a massive nuclear blast. Yet contradictions remain. If LDG had formed from local sandstone, it should not predate the dunes themselves, less than 1 million years old. However, LDG samples have been dated to over 28 million years old, raising further questions. Whether these materials are remnants of natural phenomena or traces of ancient technology, the evidence remains inconclusive. What is clear is that the subject warrants far deeper investigation and debate. The idea of a pervasive, vital energy that animates the universe is a concept found in cultures and philosophies across the globe. American attorney and writer Albert Pike alluded to such a power, stating, "There is in nature one most potent force, by means of which a single man, who could possess himself of it, and should know how to direct it, could revolutionize and change the face of the world." This notion of a controllable, world-altering energy serves as a cornerstone for various mystical and esoteric traditions, culminating in the 20th century obsession with a force known as Vril. In Indian philosophy, the concept Pike described is equated with prana. The Sanskrit word for life force, prana, is the cosmic energy believed to permeate all matter. In yoga and Ayurveda, it is the sum total of all energy in the universe, responsible for the body's life and maintenance. A specific manifestation of this force is prana vayu, or life wind, considered the fundamental energy from which all other vital currents, vayus, arise, governing functions like breathing, digestion, and nerve impulses. This concept finds a direct parallel in traditional Chinese culture with qi, also spelled qi or qi. Frequently translated as life force or energy flow, qi is the central principle in Chinese medicine, Taoist philosophy, and martial arts. Livia Cohn, in Health and Long Life, The Chinese Way, explains that qi is the basic material of all that exists. It animates life and furnishes functional power of events. Its quality and movement determine human health. Meditative breathing is considered a primary method for balancing and cultivating this energy. In Japan, this universal force is known as Reiki, a spiritual energy often channeled for stress reduction and healing. While Eastern cultures integrated these concepts into their spiritual and medical practices, the Western esoteric tradition formulated its own version, crystallized in the 19th century by the English author and Rosicrucian initiate Edward Bulwer-Lytton. In his 1871 novel, Vril, The Power of the Coming Race, Lytton described a subterranean civilization of beings, the Vrilia, who had mastered a powerful energy called Vril. This force granted them godlike abilities, including telepathy, healing, and the power to control nature. Lytton's book explicitly describes this advanced race as being descended from the same ancestors as the great Aryan family. Through his fiction, Lytton propagated the idea that superhuman beings exist and that their power could one day be harnessed by an elect portion of humanity. Lytton's novel became a foundational text for a German secret society formed shortly before the rise of the Nazi Party, the Vril Society. According to Dr. Willy Ley, a German rocket expert who fled the country in 1933, this group believed they could unlock secret knowledge to transform themselves into beings equal to the subterranean race described by Lytton. He stated, the Vril Society believed they had secret knowledge that would enable them to change their race. Methods of concentration, a whole system of internal gymnastics by which they would be transformed. These techniques were allegedly based on the spiritual exercises of Ignatius of Loyola, which Nazi occultists believed were ancient Atlantean secrets preserved by the Basque people. The Vril Society held that mastering Vril would make one the master of oneself, others, and the world, enabling the dominance of the Teutonic race. This belief system allegedly permeated the highest echelons of the Nazi Party. According to the book The Unknown Hitler, Karl Haushofer, a key geopolitical strategist for the Third Reich, founded the Luminous Lodge or Vril Society in Berlin. The lodge's members supposedly included Hitler, Alfred Rosenberg, Heinrich Himmler, Hermann Göring, and Hitler's personal physician, Dr. Morell. The group sought to explore the origins of the Aryan race and perform concentration exercises to awaken the forces of Vril, drawing on teachings from Tibetan Lamas and the mystic George Gurdjieff. The Vril Society's ambitions were not purely metaphysical, they were allegedly tied to a desperate search for a paranormal free energy source that could fuel the Nazi war machine. According to research presented by Vladimir Tertsitsky in the mid-1990s, German secret societies like Vril, Thule, and the Black Sun were in contact with an alien Tudor race beginning in the late 1920s. This alleged cooperation led to the development of anti-gravity space flight, time travel, and advanced saucer-shaped aircraft. This research was supposedly carried out by a special unit of the SS known as the E4, Development Unit 4 of the Order of the Black Sun. Tasked with developing alternative energies, this unit reportedly created a revolutionary electromagnetic gravitic (EMG) engine in 1939 called the Thule Triebwerk, Thrustwork, or Tachyonator 7. This drive was designed to be installed in a series of disc-shaped craft known as the Ahnenerbe. Following World War II, Allied military commanders were reportedly stunned to discover the depth of Nazi research into secret societies, metaphysics, and alternative propulsion technologies, much of which remains classified to this day. Decades later, a controversial Austrian-born psychoanalyst named Dr. Wilhelm Reich conducted research that seemed to independently validate the existence of a Vril-like cosmic energy. He claimed to have discovered a universal life force he called orgone energy, derived from the words organism and orgasm. He asserted that this energy, which he claimed could be measured with a Geiger counter, was the biological force behind the pulsation of life itself. Albert Einstein, after a demonstration of its properties, reportedly remarked that this would be a bombshell to physics. Reich built devices called orgone accumulators, boxes made of alternating layers of organic and metallic material, to concentrate this energy for health benefits. He also developed a cloudbuster, a device that used long pipes connected to an accumulator to balance atmospheric orgone and induce rain, which he successfully demonstrated in the Arizona desert in 1954. However, Reich's work was met with hostility from the scientific establishment and the U.S. government. The Food and Drug Administration, FDA, launched a lengthy campaign against him, which culminated in a court order to destroy his books and ban his accumulators. In 1957, Dr. Reich was sentenced to 2 years in prison for contempt of court, where he died. His story is often cited in esoteric circles as an example of the suppression of scientific discoveries that challenge conventional paradigms, with orgone energy viewed as a modern, scientific rediscovery of the ancient force of Vril. Behind these mysteries lay a deeper element, a secret order known to initiates as the Order of the Black Sun. This organization was reportedly so feared that it is now illegal to print its symbols and insignia in modern Germany. Its roots stemmed from the Vril Society, which was founded around the same time as the Thule Society when Karl Haushofer established the Brüder des Lichts, Brothers of the Light. While the Thule Society focused on materialistic and political agendas, the Vril Society concentrated on metaphysical matters. This group was eventually renamed the Vril Gesellschaft and rose in prominence to unite three major societies: the Lords of the Black Stone, a successor to the Teutonic Order, the Black Knights of the Thule Society, and the Black Sun, which was the elite branch of the SS. A central figure in the Vril Society's esoteric pursuits was a medium named Maria Orsic. In the period after World War I, she reportedly began receiving telepathic messages in an unknown language she could not transcribe. This led her to meet with key members of Germany's burgeoning secret societies. The messages were believed to originate from the Aldebaran star system, an orange giant located about 65 light-years away in the constellation of Taurus. According to the channeled information, the solar system of Aldebaran has 2 inhabited planets. Its population is divided into a master race of pure Aryan people and other human races that had devolved through genetic mutation, a consequence of climatic changes on their worlds likely brought about by a nuclear war. The more the races intermixed, the lower their collective spiritual development sank. This degradation meant that when their sun, Aldebaran, began to expand, they could no longer maintain the advanced space travel technology of their forefathers and escape. The devolved races, considered unable to govern themselves, had to be evacuated to other habitable planets. This cosmic history formed the basis for all further actions by the Vril Gesellschaft. The narrative claimed that 500 million years ago, the Aldebaran Aryans, also called the Elohim or Elder Race, began to colonize our solar system. Their first colony was on the planet Marduk, which is believed to have existed where the asteroid belt is today, followed by a settlement on Mars. When they finally came to Earth, these Aryans became known as the Sumerians. They established their civilization in Mesopotamia, governing through an elite bloodline and a segregated caste system where interracial breeding was strictly taboo. This belief was not unique to German mystics. Hiroshi Oshima, the former Japanese ambassador to Germany, believed that the noble castes in Japan, the daimyo and samurai, were also descended from gods of celestial origin. This resonated with the Nazi theory that the Nordic race did not evolve, but came directly down from heaven to settle on the Atlantic continent. This mythology also reinterpreted tales from other cultures. The story of Hanuman, the Hindu monkey god from the epic Ramayana, was viewed as an allegory for genetic engineering. According to this belief, the godlike race calling themselves Aryans were agriculturalists who practiced animal husbandry. It was claimed they eventually began to crossbreed humans with apes, producing a hybrid servant or worker race, which the ancient temple friezes allegedly depicted as the monkey army. According to these folk beliefs, the original earthly home of the Aryans was the lost land of Thule, the capital of the ancient continent of Hyperborea, located at the northernmost reaches of the earth. Nazi mystics placed Ultima Thule near Greenland or Iceland. Adherents to this theory also believed in a hollow earth, proposing that when this once warm country was flooded and covered in ice, the advanced Aryan race found sanctuary in massive subterranean caverns. They connected this mythological destruction to the end of the last ice age, approximately 11,000 years ago, when melting glaciers caused sea levels to rise by 400 feet, submerging coastlines and forcing the inhabitants to relocate. The emblem of this migrating race was the swastika. One of the oldest symbols in the world, it is known as the Filfot in England, the Hakenkreuz in Germany, and the Manji in Japan. In his 1896 book, The Swastika, the earliest known symbol in its migrations, Thomas Wilson, a curator at the U.S. National Museum, identified it as an Aryan symbol used by the Aryan peoples before their dispersion through Asia and Europe. He argued that the symbol's presence in so many different cultures was evidence of the migration of these ancient Aryan peoples as they split up and established themselves across the world. Founded in 1935, the Ahnenerbe was a scientific institute in the Third Reich dedicated to researching the archaeological, linguistic, and cultural history of what they believed to be an advanced Aryan civilization that survived the Ice Age. Its name, meaning inherited from the forefathers, reflected its mission, to conduct expeditions and experiments to rediscover the forgotten past of Germanic peoples, from a time when they believed Nordic populations ruled the world. The historical and archaeological research of the Ahnenerbe has been largely downplayed since the end of World War II. While mainstream academics in the first half of the 20th century were promoting discoveries later proven to be hoaxes, the Ahnenerbe were exploring pyramids in China, uncovering Caucasoid mummies on the Canary Islands, and searching for subterranean passages in Tibet. They sought to publicize an occult, or hidden, history that they believed linked the old and new worlds. After the war, most members of the Ahnenerbe were released, many going on to become professors at major universities. Their research was presented as scientifically valid, in contrast to what the text describes as the politically motivated falsification of history promoted by institutions like the United Nations. This historical revisionism was rooted in an occult astrotheology centered on cosmic cycles, particularly the transition from the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius. According to this belief, which draws from ancient Indo-Aryan Vedic texts, our sun revolves around a great central sun, often called the Black Sun of myth. This grand orbit, known as Plato's Great Year or the precession of the equinox, takes 25,860 years to complete and is divided into 12 cosmic months of 2,155 years each. The current era marks not just the change of an age, but the end of a full cosmic year. Earth is said to be transitioning from the Kali Yuga, or Age of Sin, which corresponds to the age of Pisces with its weak cosmic radiation, into the age of Aquarius, which will bring the strongest radiation and usher in a new golden age. This changeover is believed to trigger immense geological, political, and social upheavals. At the heart of this mythology was Ultima Thule, the capital city of Hyperborea, the first continent peopled by Aryans, which was said to predate both Lemuria and Atlantis. Scandinavian lore tells of this wonderful land in the high north where the ancestors of the Aryan race dwelt. The Hyperboreans were described as tall, white, blonde, and blue-eyed people who came from a star in the constellation Taurus. When their continent was submerged by ice and water, they supposedly burrowed gigantic tunnels into the Earth's crust and settled in a subterranean realm called Agartha, with its capital Shambhala, located under the Himalayan region. Karl Haushofer, a key theorist for the regime, claimed that Thule was actually Atlantis and that its survivors split into two groups, a good faction, the Agartha, who settled in the Himalayas, and an evil one, the Shambhala, who went west and sought to subjugate humanity. Haushofer framed the Third Reich struggle as a continuation of this ancient conflict, with the Thule society representing Agartha against the forces of Shambhala, which he identified with Freemasons and Zionists. Hitler himself was said to have been especially keen on discovering the entrances to Agartha to make contact with the descendants of these Aryan god people. Consequently, the SS sent expeditions to the Himalayas, the Andes, and parts of Europe and South America. Tibetan lamas, including the Dalai Lama, allegedly confirmed to the Germans that the people of Agartha still exist. This belief system held that the planet's true life exists in its interior, with the master race living inside and mutants on the surface. Entrances to this inner world were believed to be located at the North and South Poles. This view was supported by citing the strange experiences of polar explorers like Admiral Byrd, Cook, and Peary, who all reported anomalies contradicting established science: warmer winds and northbound birds at extreme latitudes, colored pollen in the snow far from any known vegetation, and flash-frozen mammoths with undigested semi-tropical plants in their stomachs. The mythology further posited that an ancient atomic war between the Hyperboreans and their enemies resulted in a Pyrrhic victory, leaving the survivors to deal with radiation-damaged offspring. Those who were genetically unharmed banded together and relocated underground in a form of self-imposed quarantine to preserve their gene pool. The surface descendants of this Mother Aryan race were the Proto-Indo-Europeans who spread across the northern areas of the planet, colonizing lands and leaving their swastika symbol. These disparate peoples, from the Basques and Berbers to the Egyptian pharaohs and the ruling classes of Iran and India, were said to share linguistic patterns, mythological similarities, and a key genetic trait: a large percentage of Rh-negative blood. According to Thule society beliefs, this was the blood characteristic of the Hyperboreans and their extraterrestrial associates, while Rh-positive blood, found in over 80% of the world's population, was considered impure and contaminated by simian hybridized DNA. After World War II, this worldview was replaced by the out-of-Africa model of human origins, which the text dismisses as a politically correct, UN-funded myth. The narrative of suppressed truth extends to technology, particularly in the field of free energy and advanced propulsion. An example cited is Die Glocke, the bell, a top-secret Nazi device described as a metallic bell-shaped object, 9 feet wide and 15 feet high. It allegedly contained 2 counter-rotating cylinders filled with a mercury-like substance that, when activated, emitted strong radiation and generated an anti-gravity effect. It is speculated that this technology was either moved to the United States under a deal with SS General Hans Kammler or taken to a Nazi-friendly country in South America. This belief in a hidden, technologically advanced Nazi remnant is most famously associated with Antarctica. In the 1930s, the Nazis established a base, known as Base 211, in a region of the continent. The story of Operation High Jump, a 1947 U.S. naval expedition to Antarctica led by Admiral Byrd, claims that the American forces encountered and were defeated by a superior German saucer force, resulting in a media cover-up. A Third Reich map, supposedly obtained by the Soviets, has recently surfaced, allegedly detailing the secret U-boat passageway to the subterranean domain of Agartha and providing a complete map of the inner Earth. This narrative is bolstered by the fact that the U.S. government classifies an estimated 560 million pages of documents each year, leading to the conclusion that for scholars and the public alike, most of their government's activities remain secret. History is often said to be written by the winners, but this isn't the only area where the victors of World War II influenced the official narrative. Many believe that technologies like free energy and anti-gravity propulsion have been deliberately suppressed since the war. This is where the story of Die Glocke comes in. The of Hitler fleeing was not considered far-fetched at the time, given that many high-ranking Nazi officials found refuge in Argentina under the dictator Juan Perón, a known admirer of Hitler. To this day, the Argentine government has not declassified its files related to Adolf Hitler, which continues to fuel doubts about the official story of his death. Sufism is a mystical branch of Islam, found among both Shia and Sunni Muslims, that focuses on a direct, personal experience of God. Rather than adhering strictly to the outward laws and practices of Orthodox Islam, Sufis seek an inner, esoteric understanding. Some followers believe that certain members of Islam's founder, Muhammad's, inner circle were among the earliest Sufi mystics. The use of henna is a strong tradition in many Muslim countries, particularly those with ancient Aryan roots like Iran, Afghanistan, and India. While the Quran doesn't directly mention henna, the Hadith literature, which contains sayings and anecdotes about Muhammad, refers to it more than 20 times. This includes references to men, and even Muhammad himself, using henna to dye their hair and beards. According to the Hadith, Muhammad started using red henna in his later years. A narration by Ibn Umar states that Muhammad said, "A true believer's dye is yellow, a Muslim is red and a non-believer's dye is black." Islam generally discourages dyeing hair or beards black, instead venerating red henna for aging hair. This is why millions of Muslims, including those of African descent with naturally black hair, follow this practice out of respect and imitation of their prophet. While most academic sources suggest Muhammad had a darker complexion, some anthropologists and historical sources point to him having fair or reddish hair. Umar described the prophet, saying, "His face was not fat nor rounded, it was white tinged with red." Muhammad's wife, Aisha, was also known as Aisha the Blonde, with the word Humaira being translated as blonde or reddish. Other prominent early Islamic figures, such as Abu Bakr and Caliph Ali, were also known for having fair hair, suggesting a possible Aryan element, haplogroup or 1A, among the early leadership. Sufism incorporates an esoteric interpretation of the Quran, known as Ta'wil, which seeks to uncover its hidden, inner meanings. This approach doesn't contradict the conventional interpretation but delves into deeper levels of spiritual understanding. Sufis practice ancient alchemical techniques that were incorporated into Islam as a way for individuals to achieve spiritual realization. Music, including chanting and meditation, is often used by Sufis to enter a collective meditative state to connect with God. While some traditional Islamic leaders may frown upon musical expression, Sufi performances aim to lead followers to the annihilation of the ego and a direct union with the divine. The ultimate goal is to experience a connection to divinity within oneself, which can only be achieved through personal experience and inner transformation, not intellectual learning. The Sufi philosopher Ibn Arabi said, "When my beloved appears, with what I do I see him. With his eye, not with mine. For none sees him but himself." Over time, Sufis gathered and combined alchemical and Gnostic teachings from various ancient sources in India, Egypt, Persia, and Greece, establishing new synthetic mystery school traditions. One such school, the House of Wisdom in Cairo, attracted scholars from across the Middle East and Asia. It was structured into 9 degrees leading to enlightenment, and its graduates went on to found their own mystery schools, such as the one established by Hassan-i-Sabbah. Hassan-i-Sabbah, known as the Old Man of the Mountain, was the leader of the Assassins, a secret society operating from the fortress of Al-Haadi in Persia, modern-day Iran. The name assassin is popularly linked to the word hashish, due to a theory that the group's members consumed it. However, another hypothesis suggests the name comes from the Arabic word assassin, meaning guardians of the secrets. Born in the 1050s, Sabbah was a member of the Twelver Shia sect, which believes in 12 divinely ordained leaders and the eventual return of a redeemer, the Mahdi. This faith is prevalent today in countries like Iran, Iraq, and Azerbaijan. The Bektashi Sufi order, influential in the Ottoman Empire, also shared a belief in the 12 imams and held secret esoteric knowledge, much of which Sabbah was said to be well versed in. Within his mountain fortress, Sabbah created a legendary garden of earthly delights. This garden was meticulously designed to mimic paradise, complete with exotic plants, rare animals, and streams of milk, wine, and honey. As part of their initiation rites, young candidates would be given a mixture of opium and hashish. When they fell asleep, they were carried into the garden. Upon waking, they were greeted by beautiful young houris, virgins, who fed them, played music, and engaged in intimate acts, convincing the candidates they had entered paradise while still alive. This ritual ensured absolute loyalty. The followers, believing they could return to this paradise by obeying their leader, were willing to carry out any command without hesitation. The assassins were skilled in more than just psychological manipulation. They were trained in multiple languages, disguises, and the beliefs of various religions, allowing them to blend in as merchants, monks, or soldiers. This mastery of covert operations made them a feared force. The order persisted for over a century until the Mongol siege of Al-Haadi in 1256. During the Crusades, contact with the assassins led crusaders to bring their system of secret societies back to Europe. Many Western secret societies, including the Knights Templar, the Freemasons, and the Rosicrucians, are believed to have adopted or mimicked the assassins' organizational structure. The Illuminati, in particular, is thought to have origins in the mystical aspects of the assassin order. Even modern intelligence agencies like the FBI, CIA, and Mossad have reportedly incorporated assassin techniques into their methodologies, with a CIA training manual on assassination even mentioning Hassan-Sabbah by name. Another Sufi sect, the Yazidis, also contributed to this flow of esoteric knowledge. They claim their history dates back 6,000 years, predating Islam. Their synthetic mystery school, which combined ancient wisdom, may have influenced the Knights Templar, who learned how to create their own mystery school, the Holy Grail Mystery School, by synthesizing knowledge from Sufi traditions, Kabbalah, and Greek and Egyptian mystery schools. In the early 20th century, Baron Rudolf von Sabbatendorf, a German occultist with ties to the Nazis, explored this connection in his book, Secret Practices of the Sufi Freemasons. He detailed internal Masonic practices from the Bektashi order, claiming they were a form of spiritual alchemy aimed at transforming the individual soul. The exercises, which he likened to Qigong, involved a combination of hand signs, vowel intonations, and movement to induct the finer radiation of the primordial power into the body. Sabbatendorf argued that modern Freemasonry had forgotten these ancient doctrines preserved by Oriental Freemasonry. The esoteric knowledge passed down by these groups, particularly the Magi of ancient Persia, often relied on the language of numbers. The word magic itself derives from magus, an old Persian term for a Zoroastrian priest astrologer. These magi were the powerful, believed to have divine wisdom. This numerical wisdom, preserved by groups like the followers of Pythagoras and later by figures like H.P. Blavatsky and Freemasons, holds that numbers are the key to understanding the universe. For example, the numbers 5 and 6 were considered sacred in Atlantis, representing male and female principles. The number 12 is a recurring sacred theme across many cultures, from the 12 tribes of Israel and 12 disciples of Jesus to the 12 signs of the zodiac and the 12 months of the year. Author William W. Westcott's work suggests that 12 represents the 12 houses of the zodiac, and 13 represents the sun, the god that passes through them. This explains why 13 is often considered an unlucky number in popular culture, because its power is understood only by the initiated elite, not the general public. The Magi, a Gnostic priest caste of the Medes, helped organize Persian society. Their power waned after the fall of Assyria and Babylon, but they continued to influence Hellenism and the Roman Empire, with the Persian religion of Mithraism becoming a major force in Rome. After the Arab invasion, their secrets were preserved by the Sufis, and subsequently, by the Knights Templar and other European lodges. Gnosis is a Greek term meaning knowledge that, in ancient times, referred to an intuitive, inner wisdom distinct from intellectual knowledge. This concept, also called divine wisdom or Sophia, was considered essential for salvation in many spiritual traditions, including Christian, Islamic, and Jewish mysticism. According to Gnostic philosophy, this innate wisdom can be cultivated through alchemical practices aimed at personal transformation and achieving a higher state of consciousness. The Knights Templar are believed to have acquired their Gnostic and alchemical knowledge from several sources during their time in the Middle East. They likely learned Kabbalah from Jewish mystics and from the Sufis, who were known as great alchemists in the Islamic world. The Templars also reportedly received teachings from Gnostic masters claiming a lineage from Mary Magdalene. The discovery of the Nag Hammadi library in 1945 revealed Gnostic Gospels, which had been suppressed by early Christianity. These texts suggest that Mary Magdalene was a close disciple of Jesus who received special Gnostic wisdom. The Templars reportedly held a special veneration for her, viewing her as an incarnation of both the goddess Sophia, wisdom, and Venus, love. The Templars saw the goddess as the source of Gnostic wisdom and adopted symbols associated with her, such as the rose, owls, and snakes. The owl traditionally accompanies Athena, the Greek goddess of wisdom, while snakes were central to ancient goddesses like the Minoan snake goddess and the Phoenician Astarte. The Templars also venerated the Black Madonna, which represented both the seductive power of Venus and the hidden wisdom of Sophia. They brought these statues to Europe, building Gothic cathedrals around them to generate spiritual energy through sacred geometry. This goddess tradition, also known as the teaching of the rose, influenced many later secret societies. The Rosicrucians, for example, took their name from the rose cross, a symbol of alchemy and gnosis. These groups became known as sub rosa, a phrase that signifies secrecy. This tradition was not just about a sacred bloodline but about preserving an alchemical path to enlightenment through practices like tantric yoga and meditation. The Templars' secrets were passed to Freemasonry after their order was dissolved in 1312. Early Freemasonry was a guild for Masons, but it evolved into speculative Freemasonry by assimilating Templar mysteries. The key secrets transmitted were alchemical practices aimed at awakening the Kundalini, a latent spiritual force at the base of the spine, to achieve gnosis. The number 33 holds great significance within Freemasonry and other mystery schools. It's rooted in Kabbalah, where it represents the 33 degrees of knowledge. In astrotheology, the number 33 also represents the degree at which the sun officially transitions into a new zodiac sign. This is why the ministry of Christ is said to begin at age 30 and finish at 33, a reference understood by those familiar with astrological secrets. The traditional story of Columbus's voyage may have a hidden purpose. Following the 1492 expulsion of Jews from Spain, many were forced to convert. Some, known as Marranos, practiced Catholicism publicly while secretly maintaining their Jewish faith. Recent research suggests that Columbus was a Marrano. His voyage was reportedly financed by wealthy Jewish converts, not the Spanish monarchs. His first 2 letters about his discovery were sent to these financial backers, not the king and queen. Columbus's cryptic signature, resembling inscriptions on Jewish gravestones, is believed to have been a hidden Kaddish, a Jewish prayer for the dead. Historians argue that Columbus's true motive may have been to find a safe haven for Jews. The name America may not come from Amerigo Vespucci. One theory suggests the name is derived from Amaruca, a term used by Central American indigenous peoples, meaning land of the plumed serpents. This is a reference to the god Quetzalcoatl, who was called Amaru in Peru. This theory, supported by geologist Jules Marcoux, suggests the name was brought to Europe from the New World, and Amerigo Vespucci changed his name to reflect this discovery.